Hello guys, welcome to a very special video, and I need to get this one out of the way. It's going to be a long one because I have a lot to do. It's going to be a lot of stop and start because I cannot be bothered to get them all out at once given how much I have, but autographs. I collect a lot of them and I thought I'd go through all of my autograph collection across both DVDs, CDs, books, and I think that's about it. I don't think I have anything more, anything other side than that. Okay, one thing, we'll get to that. Obviously we start with Lost in Time. This is always at the forefront of my collection. On the front here we have Maureen O'Brien and Peter Purves. This is actually part of a little project of mine where I want to try, across the roughly 22 episodes, because you know you've got audios of Crusade 2 and 4 and Moonbase 1 and 3. Along with the clips, I want to get everyone involved. Anyone I can on this set. The covers, obviously that's to be filled first. The front, that's being reserved for the companions. So up here, if I can get them, will be William Russell and Carol Ann Ford. There would be Jean Marsh, Annika Wills, Fraser Hines, John Levine, even though Benton's not in this, he was a sideman, obviously. Wendy Padbury, and that space is basically going to be first come, first serve. The top contenders are David Graham or John Levine. Not John Levine, Ian Levine, sorry. Which, yeah, he's a controversial person, but yeah, it's important in my opinion. Anyway, on the back we have Les Conrad. He was an extra throughout a good number of stories. Mostly after this, he was in the Space Pirates, which is the closest I can get to have him on this set. But I thought I'd get it anyway. You notice a lot of doubles across this video, and I have no shame in that. Then we have Julian Glover, who was King Richard the Lionheart in the Crusade. He was great there. Here we have Paul Kirby. Kirby is quite a special name for me. If you know the name, you probably know him better as a stormtrooper from the original Star Wars film. I took a gamble when I took the cover with me to the convention he was going, because there were about 14 Paul Kirbys on IMDb. I thought, I'll take a gamble, I'll ask him, because one was credited for Doctor Who, solely for the Space Pirates. And so I said to him, excuse me, were you in Doctor Who? And immediately he went on. He talked about it, and I knew exactly what it was. And he mentioned, funnily enough, he's actually, if you see the photo on screen, he was that space pirate from the wire sequences from episode 1. So his footage exists. And I even showed him it to show them it still exists. He was quite happy about that. I almost brought him to tears, and that was a brilliant moment. So yeah, there's a Lost in Time. Then we have the chase, as soon as it enters focus. My phone hates me today. This is also signed by Peter Purves and Maureen O'Brien. Purves, for whatever reason, signs with the year. I also found out he travels relatively close to me, so that could easily mean more signatures from him. Yeah, you will obviously notice doubles. I don't really care about having doubles on my DVDs or anything. Well, not on the two on the same. That would be weird. Except for one person only. That's a golden life, that one. But yeah, if I can get, obviously these ones I actually got done at the same time. This obviously for my Lost in Time project, as I call it, and this one to actually have a DVD. Really, there was a little choice for Purves, so I thought I'd just go for the chase and got Maureen on there as well. A lot of people hate this one. I love it. I really love it a bit. Power of the Daleks Special Edition. This is by Annika Wills. I've not met Annika, I'm sad to say. This was an order from her website, came signed. I didn't know what to put. Maybe I should have, in hindsight, I might have asked for it to say Polly, the character she played. Yeah, what happened here was I had this on pre-order from Amazon, and then someone mentioned, oh, you can get it from her website for like about 10 or more, and she signs it, and I thought, I'm having that. Obviously, I've had to replace the silver case, because this was the first one that didn't have this one didn't have a silver case. It was a clear case, and I hated it, so I thought, silver it is. I'm going to let that pass up. Then we have The Tomb of the Sidemen. This is signed by Fraser Hines, who was Jamie McCrimmon. When I met him, I was just pure starstruck, awe-bound, like, Fraser Hines, because I love Fraser Hines. I love Jamie. He was great on the series, really. That's all I can say, really. I just was so starstruck. There wasn't a queue, but I did take my time meeting him. Speaking of which, here's another one, also signed by him, Fraser Hines. There's Les Conrad again, who's a unit soldier, and a regular soldier in the story, and in silver, appropriately, John Levine. This was obviously the choice because I felt this was an important one for Levine. This was important as mainly. If you know his story, he was meant to be a side man, but he got lucky and ended up becoming the lovable Benton. Yeah, so that was quite a nice one. I'm obviously in love with this. It looks so nice in silver, it's so reflective. The Ambassadors of Death. Again, Les Conrad, who was a soldier. He was a policeman. You would clearly see him in the 7th episode. I think he's the policeman who gets thrown over the car by the ambassador. He did start trying to sign my name, but I noticed he had arthritis, so I said, just do your name if you can, and he did that on the free, all at once. The reason I chose this one for Conrad was because it wasn't because he was cheap. It was because this story is running out of people. In fact, none of the regulars are alive from this one. Aside from Levine, I've only just remembered that. How weird. But episode 5, I remember reading... No, 6, sorry. I remember reading somewhere, is possibly the first episode of Doctor Who when no one is even alive from it anymore. So I thought, I'll get one on here while I can. So that was my go-to. Then we have The Claws of Axos. This is signed by Katie Manning. This was a no-brainer. This is a DVD I've had for... I want to say the longest time. I've always enjoyed it with the Spaghetti Monster and the Coca-Cola people. So yeah, that was just a no-brainer for me. Prepare to see a lot of doubles, all I'm saying. The Mutants, signed by Garrick Hagon, who played Kai. Obviously, Hagon is more known for playing someone in Star Wars. I can't think... Not Wedge. Biggs, I think he plays. Yeah, Wedge is Dennis Lawson. So yeah, signed this. He also signed something else at the same time, which you'll see later in the video. But this was when I learned, because obviously we know about Season 9 now, but this was the first confirmation for me that Season 9 was going to be out, because he mentioned that he had been onto location to film it. So, bit of info for you there. Yeah, I'm not overly fond of this story, but he was in it, and I thought, oh, better get it signed. Then we have The Three Doctors, signed, again, by Katie Manning. This was the first one I've had signed by Manning. She was lovely. She would not stop chatting during that convention, even when the queue got halfway around the hall. It was a relatively big hall, but she was lovely to talk to, and this was the one. This was appropriate choosing for reasons I'm going to keep a secret for a while. Then we have Planet of the Daleks. I always remember this one being called The Planet of the Daleks. This is again signed by Katie Manning. It was a toss-up between this one and another, but I've decided to save that other one for a specific reason, and I hope I can get that done later this year. But yeah, so it's quite nice. Obviously, I just chose this one because I know a lot of people aren't fond of the Pertwee Dalek stories. But you know what? Since Christmas 2010, when I first saw this one... No, Christmas 2009, when I first saw this on VHS, I've always loved the story. Next time I watch it, I may even just... turn off the colour on my TV for episode 3 just for nostalgia's sake. Because I'm weird like that, I guess. And next we have The Ark in Space. This is signed by Philip Hinchcliffe. I've not met Hinchcliffe. This is a genuine autograph, though I did get it checked. I just saw this on eBay one day for, I think it was about 15 quid, and I thought, you know what, he's on an elusive list. I don't think he does conventions all too much, so yeah, so I decided I'll buy it. I'm happy with it. I would like to meet him, obviously, but at the same time, I understand. Sometimes you just got to make do. Then we have The Invasion of Time. This is signed by... in 2 places, annoyingly. So obviously it says Tailwags from K9. John Leeson, who was obviously K9, and Lord Good, who was an extra on this one. I'm not sure who he was, though. I think he was a Time Lord. That's to my best recollection. I will have to double check that and properly update a list I have on my phone, so I know who have I got. Anyway, then we have City of Death. This is again signed by Julian Glover, who was Scadoff. Strangely, when I met him, he didn't realise episodes 1 and 3 of The Crusade were on Lost in Time. Otherwise, I'm assuming he would have signed for King Richard the Lionheart. So he signed for Scadoff on this one. I'm rather happy, especially as he did it under the face. That is, I like that sort of thing. That is really nice. I like that. Then we have quite an interesting one, in my opinion. Sharda. You can't see the top signature there because of the light, but had to move it. This is signed by 3 people who aren't in Sharda. Let me explain. I've actually forgotten who that one on the top is. I'm going to have to check now. That's rather embarrassing. I've got it written down on my phone. Like I said, I have it all noted. That is really bad. But anyway, up here we have Lee Sullivan, who did work on the animation shard of the BBC animation. That's included on this. Annoyingly, you have to put it into a computer to access it, and I'm not too thrilled about that. But you know what? I wish they had given it a separate release. I've just checked. This one is Alistair Locke, and I can't believe I didn't realise that. That's so bad of me. Again, worked on the BBC Sharda. And down here, this is another interesting one. Shirley Conrad. She is actually the wife of Les, who we've seen on 3 previous DVDs. She was there when the convention, which was LFCC, mentioned her name. It said Doctor Who, but I couldn't find anything on her. And it took a lot of digging to find out she was meant to be in Sharda as the wife of the Scottish king. Is that how you say it? You don't say Macbeth. Oh, there it is. And I thought, you know what? She was cast. She was meant to be in it. That was a bit of back and forth if I wanted it, but I decided anyway, let's have it. She was there. Her husband was there. Her sons were there. We'll get to those guys. So I decided, you know what? Well, let's get her on here. So basically, that's probably a unique one. That is, I'm probably the only one in the world who has a Doctor Who DVD signed by her, which has probably devalued it in a lot of people's eyes, but to me, that's worth a lot more. That's just how I view things. Warrior's Gate, signed by a Frau. I think it's a Frau, is that what it is? But Lawgood. I believe that's who they are. Again, like some guests, I will double, sometimes even triple up, depending on how frequent they attend conventions, which is why I got 2 from Maureen O'Brien, because she's a rare signer. And of course, Lawgood, I decided, you know what, I'll get 3. I'll get to the 3rd one shortly. Kinder, signed by Lee Corns. He was the jester in this story. And I'm going to make a joke, and if you get this joke, you have no life. I genuinely mean you have no life. Okay, boomer. If you get that joke, write in, and you get a sweet. So yeah, like, he was announced, and I've just decided, go for it. He was in it. If you want to see Corns a bit more clearly, he is also in Red Dwarf. That's one of the, what was his name? Lister's Imagination. Enlightenment. Oh, look who it is. It's Lawgood again. That's the 3rd one by Lawgood. This, from the Black Guardian trilogy, is my favourite to look at. I love the sets. They are beautiful. He was a sailor. I can't think of what the name of the ship was, but he was a sailor in this one, and thought, why not? I don't actually have anything from Season 20 specifically. You could easily debate that this one is from Season 20, but I wouldn't say that myself. This is signed by Peter Davison, the 5th Doctor. This is actually the first ever signature I got. Davison's right there. That right there is Janet Fielding, who was Tegan Jovanka. And that was an obvious choice. I thought, well, I've got Peter on here. So, 5 and meet Mark Strickson. He's on here as well. In hindsight, I wish they'd done this smaller because I have a lot of people to get on this one. Anyway. Then we have Warriors of the Deep. This is signed by Ian McCulloch. I don't know who he played in this one. I've forgotten the character's name. If I met him again, I'd have him sign the CD because it's already signed. But the last time I met him, I asked him what he thought. He didn't like the story. And I agreed with him, but I've come around on this one. And I don't mean I have actually come around. I would actually have to say that, you know what? I like it. I like this story. It's not great, but I feel there is a bit of complexity to some of the characters, and I do have to like it. I really do, actually. Anyway, then we have Resurrection of the Daleks, and that's a little scuff there, I've just noticed. This is signed by Terry Malloy, who was obviously Davros. This is my 3rd signature from him, as it happens. Won't be the last. By all means, it won't be the last. I do have the rubber sleeve that came with this one. As it happens, that's elsewhere. It's not important to this video, so I will show it off at a later date if anyone's interested. But yeah, obviously Malloy, love him. He's a great. If you ever get the chance to meet Terry Malloy, I would recommend it. He's a lovely guy. He was also Eric Clapton. Nice little Harry Hill reference. Then we have the Caves of Androzani. This is signed by Steve Wickham, an extra on this story. I believe he was a soldier or an android. If you ever get the chance to meet Wickham, my God, what a lovely man. All I have to say was, he was obviously an extra on 2 Doctor Who stories. We'll get to that second one in a minute, but he's recently done a lot of Big Finish where he's been credited. Honestly, he was lovely. He was just lovely to like chat to. I think I was talking to him for like 10 minutes because he was just so brilliant, I would have to say. Usually, also, I've broken this rule twice. 3 times. 3 times. One of them wasn't intentional. With the signs, I get the original one signed. I know there are special editions you can get signed, but I get the original one signed. As it happens, you could also probably argue, if I get it out for a quick moment, that I could have had Shirley Conrad on the 2017 copy of Shada. I refer to this one as the 92 edit, but I thought that's completed with animation, so this was more appropriate in my opinion. Now we move on to the Twin Dilemma, possibly one of the worst stories ever made. This is signed by 4 people, so we have Kevin McNally, who was Hugo. Then we have the twins, Andrew and Gavin Conrad, who are obviously those 2. They're the sons of Shirley and Les Conrad, so I've got most of the family. I think there's another one who was, I can't think of his name off the top of my head, who was in a number of stories as well. And Steve Wickham, who was also an extra on this one. I loved hearing him talk about the contrast between the 2 and Nicola Bryant's cleavage. For professional reasons, I actually have to say that's not a joke. Everyone mentions it. Then prepare for a lot of copies, but we have Attack of the Cybermen, signed by Colin Baker. Vengeance on Varos, signed by Colin Baker. The 2 Doctors, signed by who else? Colin Baker. This was actually the first one I had signed by Colin. This is actually a rare one. If I, where is it? I don't think, yeah, there you can see. This has a fix with some Sontarans on it. Obviously, that has been taken off. It's been edited recently. This is the original unedited copy. Once again, I will comment and just say that Jimmy Savile was a monster. Truly a monster. So, yeah. Time Lash. Colin Baker. My goal is to get season 22 completely signed by Colin Baker. I am one individual story away. 2 DVDs away, though. Then we have Revelation of the Daleks, signed by Terry Malloy and Colin Baker. This was the first one I got signed by Malloy. I mentioned it because I felt it was, in my opinion, it's his best performance. He agreed, even if he had a cold, which I think heightened the performance so perfectly. Yeah, so I've had this one signed for a long time now. It's wonderful, wonderful DVD set. Then we have Terror of the Vervoids, Part 3 of A Trial of a Time Lord, signed by Colin Baker and Bonnie Langford, who was Mel. Does a lot of screaming, doesn't she? We have Trial of a Time Lord Part 4, The Ultimate Foe. Oh, that sticker's a little scuffed. Signed by, obviously, like I said, Bonnie Langford. I wanted one where I didn't have Colin on there. Not the biggest fan of this conclusion, if I'm being quite real. I should have had Silver, actually. She always seems to sign where the sticker goes. Time and the Rani. This is signed by Ian Durant. Interesting story about him. He mentioned that he's not sure if he actually ended up filming anything because he was a tetrap, and during the Upside Down sequences he couldn't take it, so he walked away. But I said he was cast, so it was good enough for me. Sometimes that's all it really takes. I'm not very particular. I appreciate anyone who comes along here, such as Simon Furman. He's on one of the features, Strip Thraction, the 7th Doctor. That was good enough for me, but as he said, it was for him. Then we have Dragonfire. This is signed by Sylvester McCoy and Bonnie Langford. I want to get... there's 3 names I want to get on this one in particular, as it happens. Obviously, Sophie Aldred. I've already got a couple of hers, but my point being, so I have all 3 regulars. I also want Edward Peel, who plays Kane, and Sean Blowers, a very small actor at this time in his career, who played Zed. Mainly because those 2, the last 2, obviously, Sean Blowers and Edward Peel, they were in London's Burning together. Well, not together, they were actually at different times. I think Peel, yeah, sorry. God, I'm losing track of my thoughts now, so sorry. But yeah, Peel was in the series long after Blowers left. That's what I was trying to say there. Then we have Remembrance of the Daleks Special Edition. This is my first signature by Sylvester McCoy and Sophie Aldred. I did actually have the original at the time. I don't know why I went for the special edition. Also, we have here Terry Malloy. On the back, we have alternative greetings from K9. John Leeson, who was the Dalek battle computer. Something which actually Terry Malloy contends he should have been, so that way to throw the audience off and make them think, oh, it might be Davros. And that's Andrew Cardmell. Cardmell was the script editor. I didn't even know he was going to be at the convention. I just saw him and said, oh, would you mind signing? He cost me a tenner. But the thing is, if I actually go to here, just to come back to that for, Jessica Martin, who was Mags in The Greatest Show of the Galaxy, I hate that she signed it on the back. I don't know why she did. But I also have a second card from Andrew Cardmell. I don't usually get these. He just gave this to me for free. Obviously wearing a weird science shirt there, for whatever reason. Cardmell is, I've been told, a very controversial name with Doctor Who, but I'm happy to have it. Unless your name is Noel Clarke or Bruno Langley, I'll have your signature. Battlefield, signed by Sylvester McCoy. Want to get some more in here. Jean Marsh would definitely be a contender, for obvious reasons. The Curse of Fenric, signed by Sylvester McCoy and Sophie Aldred. I loved talking to them about this particular story. They had nothing but positivity to say, and with good reason. Then we have Survival, signed by Julian Holloway, who, I can't think the character's name. Strangely, he knew this was the last one, but didn't realise this wasn't the last one they ever filmed. That was Ghostlight, appropriately. Then we have the movie special edition. Again, I don't know why I had the thing. So obviously we have Paul McGann. This was my first meeting with him. The 8th Doctor. Sylvester McCoy, 7th. And that, very unclearly, because I've just realised I asked for blue to match those two on blue, is Eric Roberts. A man who scares me. The little story behind that was, when I went to meet him, the night before I decided to watch Star 80, where he played the villain of the piece. And I had to simply say to him, oh, did you know you filmed the murder scenes in the actual room the murder scenes took place in? And he said that not only did he know, he slept there. I am now scared to death of Eric Roberts. So yeah, on the back we have, as soon as it focuses, that is Roger Landridge and that's Mike Collins, both of whom were on Stripped for Action, the 8th Doctor. And lastly, from the classic DVDs, we have More Than 30 Years in the TARDIS, signed by Jamie Anderson. Got it right that time. Who was interviewed here as part, along with his father, Jamie Anderson. And I've just completely mucked that up. Yeah, I got it right saying Jamie Anderson, but then his father's Jerry Anderson. How do I keep making that mistake? We have the complete first series. If I have to take off the slide. Here we have Christopher Eccleston. I think I might be the first person to ask him to sign IX for 9. I had to wait. I think I waited like an hour for him to come back from a lunch break to get him to sign this. It was worth it. Worth it. So worth it. Also, I love that he was still video calling his wife when he came back. It wasn't a case of you just ignoring fans. He just couldn't hang up on his wife. I love that. We have a number more on the back. So, Jimmy V, who was the Mox Balhoun. Also, the Space Pig. So that was quite interesting. Though that was, of course, in the End of the World and Aliens in London. Anna Louise Plowman, who was Diana Goddard in Dalek. Paul Cornell, who wrote Father's Day. I met him actually just a day after the 15th anniversary of Human Nature and the Family of Blood. And that's Zoe Wanamaker, who was Lady Cassandra O'Brien. Come now, don't stare. The complete series 2, which, take off the slide. I preferred when they did like these plastic ones, as we'll come to see. We obviously have David Tennant at the top. It's not a kiss, it's a 10. Obviously, that was a great meeting. I paid so much money for that and had quite a laugh. Obviously, here we have that Sean Dingwell, who was the alternative version of Pete Tyler. Camille Kudrai, who was Jackie Tyler. That is Tracy Ann Oldman. I've forgotten who she played. I've forgotten the character's name. She was the head of the Torchwood Institute in Army of Ghosts and Doomsday. On the back we have Mariana Burning, who played Scotty in The Impossible Planet. And actually, speaking of The Impossible Planet, I've got quite a... or that story, I have quite a fantastic and interesting one to share. That is Simon Bisley. He did no work on Doctor Who. Instead, his work inspired The Beast. When I found that out, there was a lot of back and forth thinking, do I get it signed? And I decided, you know what, might as well. So I took it and asked him about it. He said yes, he was happy to sign. He said he got £50 for his work influencing The Beast. And he mentioned that since it was the first Doctor Who, I think he even said ever, any Doctor Who product ever he signed, he put a 1. I love that. Like, oh my god, like that is just genuinely like one of the... I've got the photo for proof, as you're seeing here, but I loved that he did that. That is honestly so cool. Like, oh my god, that is amazing. I love it. Like, as a collector, when you get like little things like that, you just go, oh, makes you go mad. Series for complete series 3. So obviously this is the holographic cover. Saxon is your man, I am the master. And on the back we have a soul signature. That's Harry Lloyd, who was Bane's or Son of Mine in Human Nature and the Family of Blood. He was a nice guy to meet. He said he had a cold, which explained all the sniffing. Then of course we have the complete series 4, and when I say about paper sleeves, you can see here, that's really scuffed up. That should probably be the other way around, but I don't like displaying the scuffed side. Here we have Colin Salmon, who was Dr. Moon in Silence in the Library and Forest of the Dead. It does take me a while to remember some of these episode names. And Jessica Martin, who was the voice of the Queen. Yes. That was in Voyage of the Damned, for the record. So, yeah. The complete specials, obviously in a scuffed up paper sleeve. This is Joplin Sibtain, who was in Waters of Mars. I thought that was him, but that's not. If it was, he would have signed there. For the longest time, I was trying to get this one signed by the late Bernard Cribbins, who never showed up and to conventions. He was always promised, but never turned up. Obviously, we know why. Which is always a tragedy, and I feel like that is a loss that not only Doctor Who fans, but the British public are still dealing with, in my opinion. The complete 7th series. Prepare for a lot of talking on this one, as if I just open this up, just to give a brief idea. Can you see the problem? Anyway, so to start we have Jenna Coleman. She was quite busy that day, so I had to remember to ask to say my name, please. Obviously, it was Clara Oswald and Osmond Oswald. Dan Starkey, who was Thrax. I think he was also someone else in this series, but I'm not 100% certain on that. That right there, Matt Smith. Obviously, had to have him sign his face. Clem So, who's you can recognise Clem So if you know who he is. He's the agent extra who appears in a number of Doctor Who stories. We have Ben Browder, who was I can't think who he was, but he was in A Town Called Mercy. That was quite lovely. He mentioned he cut open Matt Smith's leg. Quite funny that. And that's, again, one I regret having signed in black over black. Ashley Walters, who was one of the band, I think he was Tricky in Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS. On the back we have Alex Kingston, who was River Song. That is, again, Gallic Hagan, my other signature by him. He played Abraham. He signed the character's name. He had notes of who he played to sign it. And there's Arthur Darvill. I haven't much cover left. If I want to get any more signatures on this one, I'm saving the front. Mainly that's to try and get, or at least the cover itself, the outside. I'm going to save those for Karen Gillan, even though she's currently on what I call my unobtainable list. And Stephen Moffat. Anyone else is going to have to go on the inside of the cover which I think one thing that annoys me about this one is just plain white. I would have preferred like an image there, but yeah, obviously this is quite a signed cover. I love it. It's one of my more prized possessions. Probably second, if I have to be quite honest about it. Maybe first, I don't know. It all depends on how I choose to look at things. We have... this is Titanic. This is from the 50th anniversary box set released at the time. He was in the Five-ish Doctors as a child. So I thought, you know what, that's good enough reason for me. I think a lot of people only wanted to meet him because he was the son of David Tennant. I wanted to meet him because he was on this on his own merit. That was good enough reason for me. He loved my cosplay. I was quite happy about that. Did not have the state of mind to ask him, did you want a photo? That would have been weird. Some random guy in a Resident Evil 2 cosplay asking an actor, would you like a photo? Sort of thing. So I didn't. Anyway, it completes 8th series. We have Lee Sullivan. Sullivan, he didn't contribute directly. One of his drawings ended up in what was it? Time Heist. It was a Dalek killer. I can't think. Absalom Dask, I think the character's name was called. And yeah, he said he only found out when a friend phoned him, and he hasn't been paid. Justice for Lee Sullivan. So, we have the complete 10th series. That's signed by Mike Collins, who did some design work on this series. Personally, he did some fantastic work on this one. Oh, I love how heavy this set feels. That's a weird thing. Twice Upon a Time. Not Twice Upon Time, that's something else. David Bradley, who was the first Doctor in this one. Obviously, I had him sign a little 1. Quite nice indeed. That would be for Peter Capaldi, so I can have 1 and 12. That will be a nice little plan there. But Peter Capaldi so far seems to have not attended a single convention in the UK. The complete 11th series, and obviously straight away you can see Tosin Cole. We have Jodie Whittaker. She told me a great story because she signed 13, but she said what happened was she once signed 8. I do hope that was not on someone's DVD or Blu-ray. And of course, Mandip Gill. I wish she had have signed bigger. Actually, that's a thought. Oh well. But this is signed by a few. We have Sasha Dahan, who was the master of this series. Patrick O'Kane, sorry, it took me a moment to remember his name. I had to remember that I almost say cocaine when it comes to his name, who was the lone sideman. Bhavishna Palmer, I think that's how it's pronounced. She was Yaz's sister. Jo Martin, the fugitive doctor. One thing I love about this one, I asked her to sign 14. I thought, why not? But what she ended up doing was actually putting IXV, as that's 9.5. Someone put, I thought, oh no, she's like, oh, she managed to correct it. But what I love, that just makes it more special to me, really, that she managed to correct it. Revolution of the Daleks, signed by Dame Harriet Walter. One I asked for to be small, so I could get all the others in here, because again, it's a 1-episode thing. What annoys me is this should have been a part of Series 13 box set, but they decided, no, let's just do it normally. I hate that. Then, speaking of which, we have Series 13 Flux. Where is it? I believe it's here. We have 2 signatures. The first one I got was Sarah Powell, who was Mary C. Cole. I know her better now as... it's really smudged, actually. I hate that. I had to get it redone if I ever meet her again. I know better as Sally Reed from London's Burning. And Craig Ellis. Or was it Craig Ellis? Because apparently his dad decided to put an E on the end. Why would he do such a thing? I've forgotten the character's name, but he was the big fluffy dog. And Dan's mate in the trailer for Series 13. Which they said was deliberate, actually. He even wears the same colours. Eve of the Daleks, Legend of the Sea Devils. This is signed by Arthur Lee. I can't think what the character's name was in the story, because it's a really bad story. Truth be told, I didn't say much about that, but it's how I personally feel about that. So that's the last of the main Doctor Who stuff. I've only got 1 spin-off signed, so this is the Sarah Jane Adventures. Why? They put the regulars on the back. This is signed by Tommy Knight. And, no, that's Angeline, oh god, how do I say that name? Angelina Mohindra, and Tommy Knight, who are obviously Luke Smith and Rani. Oh God, it's been a while, respectively. I missed out on another one because I forgot he was there on the next day, and I just wasn't bothered to go back and get the set because I had a hotel. So yeah, that's actually the last of the main thing. Also, if you want to get a quick insight of how weird and messed up I am, I put the Blu-ray disc in there. I've got the regular case elsewhere. Doctor Who and the Tomb of the Cybermen. Up here, this is signed by the cover artist, Jeff Cummins, who he told me quite an interesting story, because obviously, if you've seen Tomb of the Cybermen, you've obviously been around since at least 1992. Anyway, as I was saying, like this, Tomb of the Cybermen uses what I dub a Model 2 Cyberman. This uses a Model 4, one from the Invasion. He chose this one. I think the reason he said was they was just the best image they had, and he preferred it. And then someone, Alistair Parsons, I believe, redid it with the correct Cyberman, and he said, "You could have just slapped me in the face." And I love that about Jeff. It was also signed the Three Doctors, if I open it. Jeff Cummins. I just happen to have this one. Like I always, he returns frequently. I need to probably get another book of his to sign. Annoyingly, with this one, I made the poor decision of having it on the cover in black. I never make the wisest decisions. So then, of course, CDs, we have The Ghosts of N-Space, signed by Sandra Dickinson. Again, still not listened to it. Still don't know who she was. The Crusade CD, signed by Julian Glover. Wish he had gold. Still wish he had gold for that. Guess not. The Genocide Machine, signed by Alistair Locke, who was the voice of the Daleks. In this one, he's also done a number of other voices, and he's a technical producer, I believe, or a sound engineer, one of those two. So it's quite nice meeting him. Order of the Daleks, signed by Jamie Anderson, who did the directing, and Chris Thompson, who designed the glass Dalek as seen on the cover. So yeah, that if you haven't seen the collection video where I talked about all the CDs, he was just there. I didn't realise he was there, so I had him sign it. That was a rather nice thing to have happened, all things considered. And then we have An Earthly Child, signed by Paul McGann. One he recommended to me, and one I just went out and bought, listened to, and had him sign it the next time I saw him, which was a month later. I loved it. It was so wonderful. Again, I want to get this one signed by Carol Ann Ford and Mark McGann, Paul's son. The War Doctor, Volume 1-2, The Thousand Worlds, signed by Caroline Seymour, who plays the companion in this particular series, or season of said series. The Empire of Ragnos, signed by Nigel Planner. Didn't like this one, really didn't. Again, I still think just new monsters with classic Doctors is a particularly weak point to do a sub-series. So that's my thoughts on that. And Gallifrey War Room, Allegiance, signed by Corinne Wicks, not Caroline Seymour, as I incorrectly said during my CD collection video. I kick myself over that constantly, how I made such a rookie mistake. She managed to sign it in gold. Lovely. Very lovely. And last off, we have, as soon as I can get it out, from Light at the End, we have 4 of the 5 Doctors on here, which makes Tom such a hard ticket for me. We have Peter Davison, Colin Baker, Sylvester McCoy, and Paul McGann. I do want to get Tom, obviously, so he'd sign it there, and I think we go through some of the pages. Obviously, got plenty of space to get a number of signatures throughout this set. If I do meet William Russell and I decide to, he would sign here, because he did the voice of the first Doctor in this one, and Fraser Hines would go there. They'd probably end up a number of double signatures, so like where they are in the thing, in the book they would be. So I can also get Terry Lloyd because he's on here, even ones that didn't actually do anything in this one. Nice cast list, all the photos, so on and so forth. As you can tell, it'd be a nice little set to hopefully become one of the most hot ticket items in Doctor Who collections, I want to say. But that's just a goal of mine. Anyway, so thanks for watching this extremely long-winded video, just like me showing off my collection of signed items. I hope everyone has enjoyed it, and obviously see you next time, guys. Thank you.